I'm not really sure what the thought process was behind sending a nuclear submarine to South Korea. Either you're going to use it or you're not going to use it. And I do not know what could possibly happen in the next 30, 60, 90 days that would precipitate the use of one of these Armageddon weapons. And if you look at what these weapons can do, these submarines, the amount of destruction that one of them can cause, it's just beyond belief. It really is. And that the current chief administrator thinks this is a game is frightening. It is incredibly, incredibly frightening. I hope the sailors aboard are able to have a little bit more discretion than the man who ordered them there. 100 days. And what have we seen? Cruise missiles fired into Syria. The Carl Vinson, apparently the carrier strike group, headed that way. And now this. Wasn't the big argument that Hillary was going to get us into a war? That Hillary was the hawk. Hillary was the one that was going to Hillary or whatever they want to call it. I mean, it's just bizarro world. I hope these people are real proud of themselves. Because this was warned of. This was foretold. That this man would do these things. That he couldn't be trusted to keep his word. He couldn't be trusted to do anything he said he was going to do. As we've seen clearly with the China being a currency manipulator thing, just decided, you know what? Yeah, I put it in my contract. I covered this in another video, that this is what I would do, or what I would direct my Secretary of the Treasury to do, and then just change my mind about it. Same thing with Hillary. Change his mind. This guy will change his mind on the drop of a hat. He cannot be held to account for anything. Period. So congratulations, Trumpansies. Good job. Good job. 100 days. 100 days, and we now have 3 different issues going on militarily in the world, and we're about to have a 4th one with Venezuela. A lot of people don't realize what's going on down there, but when you have millions and millions and millions of starving people in a country, it's just a matter of time before something happens very, very bad. And of course my screen would blink, but it's, of course, disappointed with congressional Republicans, and this is, of course, Fox. This is the pro-Trump network. It's just almost too sad to talk about how pathetic a good portion of our population has become. I mean, do you remember all the rhetoric from the campaign? How this guy was Reagan-esque? That just makes me ill. I was in the military at the time when Reagan and Bush Sr. were in, and this guy is nothing like that. Not even close. Remember the big read my lips thing with George Bush? Remember that? How he backtracked on that, and that was the end of him? That was just one thing. How many things has this guy backtracked on, changed his mind on, done a 180-degree turn on? It's a different time, folks. It's a different era. And I wish I had something positive to say, something hopeful to say, but I don't see the summer of 2017 as a hopeful time. I've never been one to go out and say this date's going to mean this and this date's going to mean that, but looking back when 9/11 occurred, 911 was symbolic of, the 911 system in America is where we pick up a phone, dial 3 numbers, and the government comes running to the rescue. Because that's in essence what it really is. I mean, whether it's you're calling for the police or you're calling for an ambulance or EMTs or firefighters or whatever, that's what you're doing. Something has gone wrong or gone sideways in your life, and the first place you turn is to the government, because those are government-provided entities. And that was the issue that I think the Muslims had, is that America had decided to turn to worship Washington and all governmental entities as opposed to God. Now, I'm not saying if your house is on fire, you should just go upstairs and pray. But the point being is that's why they chose the symbolic date of that. Um, May 1st is what they call Mayday. Now, if anybody doesn't know what the root of the term Mayday was in radio, it was based off of the French M apostrophe A-I-D-E-R, Mayday. It means help me. And it's, pronounced Mayday, Mayday, Mayday. And that's where the term Mayday comes from. The involvement in the French with all of this and the problems that they've had, I would not be surprised if everything that we're watching now was a prelude to something happening on Monday. I could be totally wrong, and I don't mind being laughed at, but it just seems like all of this crap that's happened has been building to some kind of a crescendo, and I'm not sure what it is. But anyway, one more thing I wanted to cover was this. He talked to the NRA today, and having been a former military guy, I want to speak very briefly about weapons. I don't disagree with the Second Amendment, but to be clear, when you're a soldier and you're living on a military base, we're trained extensively to handle those weapons and to use them in proper, safe manner. Even with that level of training, weapons stay in the armory. You know, so go ambling around on base with, heavy weapons over your shoulder or packing a 9 on your side. You just don't do it. We have people that are designed for security, and they have specific duties, and they do it in a certain way. The Second Amendment was not about hunting, and it was not about personal protection. When the Second Amendment was written and it was put out, there was no standing army. There was no standing security force in the U.S., in any of the states, at any level. There was no provision for it. It was put there to keep the government from taking away the arms of the people, thereby giving themselves a free rein to do whatever they wanted to do. And there was a great fear of that. There was an issue, it's kind of a complicated, convoluted argument about slavery as well that was involved in it. About people being able to maintain arms so that they could maintain their slave populations. But that's a whole other argument for another day. But the point being, when you talk about gun laws, and I know this doesn't have a lot to do with Trump, and I apologize for getting off on the tangent, but I think it's relevant, if anything were to ever hit the fan, so to speak, in the world. If you really have those weapons for the purpose of upholding the Second Amendment, no law is going to protect you. Because if you would ever feel the need, or large groups of people would ever feel the need, to take up arms against the government, the BATF, IRS, local police, whoever, Homeland Security, there's going to be no legal way for you to own a weapon at that time anyway. You'll be labeled a terrorist. You'll be labeled a criminal. They will try you in absentia, convict you, give you basically felon status, and no law will protect you. So why NRA people are worried about this law or that law or enforcing law, it makes no sense. It argues with the reason you're keeping the weapon anyway. If you're keeping the weapon solely for the purpose of hunting, then it won't matter what law, one way or the other, whether you can hunt or not hunt. That's a pastime. That's a hobby. Constitution was not put there to protect hobbyists. Personal protection cannot be argued because taxes are paid for police forces and security forces and all sorts of stuff that goes on. And yeah, they're not perfect, but there's nothing out there where you could say that you are unprotected. So I'm not arguing against the Second Amendment here. I'm just arguing against the logic about, making these laws say this or that law says that, or, they love to say that, this illegal immigrant came in and he had a weapon, he shouldn't have had a weapon, he did this, that, and the other. And well, that's exactly what they're going to do to you if you ever would use that weapon to protect yourself from them. They're going to make you illegal. Just being you will be illegal. If you were any kind of a patriot or a person that would have the idea to stand up against the government. So Anyway, I didn't want to take too much time on that, but this comparison with him to Reagan is just sickening, and I covered this in another video, and I'm just going to go over it again. These are terrorist attacks in America from 79 to 88. Now we're going to, the hostages taken at the embassy in Tehran, that was a Carter issue. But you can read through this. PBS.org, WGBH, pages, frontline, shows target, or just Google terrorist attacks on Americans in the 80s. And you can see how many different terrorist attacks there were where the U.S. did not respond with military force. We had threats from Libya. We had the bombing of the U.S. Embassy in Beirut. Nothing done. Marine barracks in Beirut. We pulled out. We pulled away, and we bombed a hillside that had nobody on it. CIA station chief Buckley kidnapped. That led to the whole Iran-Contra thing. Bombing of another embassy annex, hijacking of Kuwait Airways fleet, and this isn't even a compendium. This isn't even a complete list of everything that happened during that time. But if you read through this, Reagan was not some war hawk. He absolutely did not use the military like, a police baton. He didn't do it because he knew what was going to follow from that. The one time he did, it caused more people to be killed. And he understood that. You got to remember something. This man was the governor of California when he was elected president. The governor of the state of California, a state that's quintessentially voted Democrat for as long as I can remember. And this man was the very popular governor of that state. And so to compare Trump to this guy is just absolutely wrong. People just have this selective memory. I've even heard people talk about, well, what about Grenada? Grenada, if you look into that, had really nothing to do with terrorism. It's a long story. I don't want to get into this video, but, the things that we did and how we used our military at that time was very selective. And primarily used it in this hemisphere. But anyway, 12 minutes, 20 seconds. It's a much longer video than I normally do, but anyway, have a great weekend, guys. I really hope I'm wrong about the whole Mayday thing. But just make sure you have water. Make sure you know where your loved ones are. And just keep your head on a swivel. Talk to you next time.